as we gather here in the Southwest, this is the home of Hopi country. It's the home of many peoples. And one of the peoples that lives here in the Southwest are the Hopi people. They've lived here for many years. And their beliefs, their cultural perspectives, and the Hopi prophecies came forward to me as something that might need exploration in our group. 30 years ago, I met Hopi elder grandfather David Manungi. He had been invited to speak at a solar conference at Lama Foundation where I was living at the time. He told us that the Hopi prophecies had been passed down in oral tradition for many generations. He and a number of other young men in the Hopi tradition had been chosen to keep the knowledge in the 1940s to pass this oral tradition on. And he arrived at Lama Foundation, which is, a couple of hours north of Taos in New Mexico. And he arrived in the midst of this solar conference, and we were all feeling really like, we're just so virtuous, we're working on passive solar, and we're like the forefront of whatever. And there were about 100 of us gathered in this great big dome, and we invited Grandfather David to speak, and he said, well, according to the Hopi prophecies, when people start to steal the energy of the sun, the earth will grow cold. And we were like dumbfounded, we're pretty like, oh geez. And yet it felt like what he was saying was that if you take anything, especially from nature and the 5 elements, without regard, thinking you're getting something for it, that's the beginning of problems. And it was a powerful teaching for me. And I didn't get a chance to meet Grandfather David, who is on the right here, and Grandfather Thomas Banyaka worked together very closely. And I didn't get to meet Grandfather Thomas for another 10 years. I met him about 20 years ago when he came to Santa Fe to speak about his life at the Unitarian Church. And he talked about how he'd spent 7 years as a conscientious objector in prison, a federal prison during World War II, because he chose not to fight. That just wasn't part of his belief. And I was so taken by what he was saying that I really felt like his biography needed to be written. And so I approached him and I said, would you consider, would you talk to me about this? And he said, come see me in Arizona. And so this began a deeper association with these two people. And in particular, they talked a lot about Tutaveni, the prophecy rock near Arribe, Arizona. And this was one of the major prophecies that the Hopis talked about, and this is kind of a simplified form. What was said was that basically the prophecy spoke of 2 paths: the path that respected nature and the 5 elements, and the one that lives simply on the earth. And there was a wider, newer path of technology that would end abruptly. You can see that the upper line has got kind of a jagged path. There's 4 people on it, and then the lower line has got one older person planting corn. The one line continues all the way to the end of the rock. The other one ends rather abruptly. One of its messages is stark. Technology cut off from nature has no future. The nature-based path is one that considers the well-being of many generations, the longevity of the planet and of many cultures. This split between a nature-based approach to life and a more technologically oriented one has become wider and wider. We can look to any country in the world to see its unfoldment. The focus on technology and agriculture is played out thus far in a striking way in India, home of Ayurveda and the world's largest democracy with a current population of 1.27 billion people. When we look at India, our mother, really the mother of who we are, the incongruities and challenges are especially strong. Attitudes and patterns of behavior in India powerfully influence how Ayurveda is practiced here in this country. The large bulk of raw ingredients for our medicines also come from India.